Okay, great. I would love to welcome everyone today to Starburst Powered Data Applications. Just a few logistic items to cover before we dive in. This is a live webinar. The on-demand link will be emailed to you within 72 hours. Please ask your questions using the chat and Q&A functions. We have a wonderful team of folks from Starburst here ready to assist. And of course, to continue your learning, you can visit the Starburst Data Applications Hub, which my colleague Anna is going to drop the link in the chat shortly. Again, welcome to the Starburst Powered Data Applications webinar. My name is Tyler Shapiro. I'm a product marketing manager here at Starburst. Actually just hit my year yesterday, so very exciting time for myself. Want to wish you all a happy new year. We're about 10 days into 2024, so it still feels like the perfect time to wish everyone a happy new year. We have a couple of wonderful speakers joining us today. We have Jason Keel, who joins us from Vectra, where Starburst Galaxy is being used to fuel a customer-facing threat detection application. You'll obviously be hearing a good bit from me. And last but not least, we have Alex Brashears joining us from the product team at Starburst, who's going to deliver an exciting roadmap session at the end of today's webinar. Just a quick agenda before we dive in. We'll start by reviewing the problems that many customers face today when building and scaling data applications. We'll look into how Starburst is paving the way with a compromise-free approach. We'll then review some really exciting features that we launched in Starburst Galaxy that support real-time data processing. Then to the heart of today's discussion, we have our fireside chat with Jason from Vectra, where you'll learn why they chose Starburst Galaxy to power their AI-driven threat detection and response platform. And last but not least, new year means new product launches. Alex will be giving us a roadmap preview for what his team is working on in the data apps world for the year ahead. As we know, data apps are at the forefront of innovation, and at the core lies driving informed decision-making. These applications, whether internal or external, empower us. They give us insights that serve as the foundation for data-driven choices and really enable us to navigate challenges with precision and confidence. Data applications are designed to streamline processes and workflows. You might want to automate a routine task or optimize your internal operations. And this is really to save time, but also make sure that your organization is more agile and responsive in dynamic business environments. In saturated marketplaces, competitive advantage is key. So by harnessing the correct insights and looking into and anticipating market trends, we can differentiate ourselves from our competitors, staying ahead of the curve and allowing ourselves to adapt to changes in customer needs effectively. And probably the most important role of data app experiences today is that personalized customer experience. In an era where customers expect tailored interactions, data apps allow us to understand our audience on a much deeper level and connect with them on a deeper level. So by customizing these products and services to match those preferences, we enhance that overall customer experience and boost loyalty. Now, unfortunately, it's not just about serving up cool features to your customers. There is a lot to navigate when building a data application. You have to keep a close eye on security, monitor data quality. You have to build for real-time capabilities, watch overall operating costs. You have to make your customers thrilled with the experience, scale up smoothly, and deal with the tech stack complexities and overall maintenance along the way. Really, it's all about mixing these factors into a winning formula to make your data applications land and expand within your user base. And of course, navigating these complexities, it's not a 1-2 punch. We're not just going to solve for this one time over. It's an ongoing process of refinement and optimization. So on the screen in front of you, you can see we want to picture this as a perpetual cycle where we're assessing, adjusting, enhancing our strategies. This approach ensures that things like our security measures remain robust and relevant with evolving regulations, that our data processes continually improve with growing data volumes, and that the customer experience we're delivering is never compromised. So embracing this iterative cycle positions us not to just solve immediate challenges, but to proactively adapt and enhance our data applications for sustained success. And that's exactly what we are here to do at Starburst. We want to help teams embrace the iterative processes within data app development and reduce those operational burdens that often come with. We have a deep understanding of this journey and everything that you have to do to make it successful, juggling tons of designing, building, optimizing, and scaling strategies for these applications. We aren't here to add to the chaos. We're here to provide you with a best-in-class platform to manage it, and then manage it at scale. From fine-grained security and universal data discovery solutions to seamless data integration tools and cost-performance scalability features, our aim is to ease that burden on teams, allowing them to focus on innovation and strategic growth rather than grappling with those technical intricacies. And if you're newer to our platform, just to give you a quick overview, in Starburst, there are 4 core layers. In the data access layer, this is where you can seamlessly connect to all your data sources in and around your lake, even sources across regions, across clouds, and both cloud and on-prem environments. Our security and governance layer has all of the essential capabilities for managing access, privacy, encryption, and includes functionalities for monitoring and logging. Moving on to the query engine, built on open source Trino, we've built significant proprietary features on top of this portion of our platform, including warp speed, which allows for query response time similar to an optimized data warehouse. And additionally, our engine offers fault-tolerant execution, which means that no more worrying about long-running queries and complex transformation jobs failing due to out-of-memory limitations. Concluding with the modeling and semantic layer, which assists you in building, organizing, and sharing data models and data products seamlessly using standard SQL. And of course, our collaboration with an extensive network of partners has allowed for flexibility for your vendor preferences or existing setups. So if your data application provides in-app visualizations via tools like Tableau or Looker, or you want to keep using data prep or transformation tools like dbt, or even integrate with your existing governance providers, we've got you covered. So now that you understand what Starburst is and what we do, how do we do it? Well, we focus on building high-quality focused features across 3 core areas. For a data application to be successful, it must perform. It has to perform beyond customer expectations and meet any necessary SLAs in place. It should be easy to implement secure data sharing, running routine maintenance and governance policies, and of course, flexible enough to adapt to changing security and privacy regulations. And lastly, it must scale from your first 100 to your next 1,000 users without ever hurting your bottom line. Taking a closer look, let's see how we provide best-in-class performance. Well, as you know, discussed in our platform overview, at the heart of our solution lies Trino, the leading internet scale MPP query engine. This is what forms the foundation of Starburst clusters. What truly separates us from the crowd is our proprietary smart indexing and caching technology, which we call warp speed. Now, warp speed is not just a catchy name, even though it is. It's a game-changing feature in data app performance. Unlike traditional approaches, this smart indexing autonomously optimizes query workloads without the need to move or model your data. So we intelligently break down data into blocks and dynamically select the most effective index for each block, significantly expediting queries. Now, not only does this expedite queries, warp speed also detects which data should be sent to the cache, and then dynamically and autonomously updates cache based on analytical workload patterns for even faster performance. When we combine Starburst's best-in-class query engine with this proprietary and patented indexing technology, we're setting a new benchmark in data app performance, empowering organizations to quickly and efficiently derive greater insights, and of course, rapidly and securely serve large volumes of data to downstream applications. In fact, customers using warp speed for their analytical workloads can reduce cloud compute costs by 40% and query response times by up to 7 times. We'll dive further into cost efficiencies in just a few slides. Next, Starburst makes governing and securing data apps flexible for your needs today and the unknowns in the future. With Starburst Gravity, teams have a single point of access to all data, regardless of where it's stored. Gravity adds a management layer that streamlines discovery, access control, governance, sharing, and monitoring of data. You can build and manage data products by seamlessly joining data from your lake and surrounding sources without the hassle of data movement. Gravity also acts as the security layer for all connected data assets. So fine-grained access control allows for precise permissions based on certain catalogs, schemas, tables, columns, even attributes and user roles, ensuring authorized access to sensitive information. We recently launched new data observability features, so now users can monitor and evaluate the state of data lake tables. You can set pass-fail quality rules and identify and investigate data quality issues along the way, so that you know when issues arise in your data that may impact downstream applications before your users do. Most importantly, Gravity was built with flexibility at its core, knowing that data requirements for applications are constantly changing, whether that be due to evolving regulations or changes in overall application strategy. Wherever you are on your journey, Gravity works with your existing stack so you can build an open, future-proof governance model. And our third core approach to data applications involves scale. We know that many solutions in the market today become expensive at scale due to index-based pricing, premium performance features, storage costs, hidden fees, and more. And unfortunately, if it doesn't scale, it doesn't work. Our key advantage in powering these data applications lies in our ability to scale without sacrificing performance or incurring growth prohibitive costs. Now, you're probably wondering how we do that. Well, Starburst contains a suite of premium performance features, no hidden fees, and we deliver warehouse-like functionalities with the cost efficiency of a data lake. And of course, it's your data, so you maintain full ownership. We support all open file and table formats with no data movement required. We've even introduced routine maintenance tasks for your data lake. These are automated and simplified to a few clicks for setup, streamlining your operational efforts. In a recent customer study we conducted, Warp Speed enabled a remarkable 70% cost reduction in S3 GET API costs via smart indexing and caching. In the end of the day, this isn't just about enhancing your application's overall performance or delighting your users. It's a strategic move to create sustainable applications that maximize your margins. And all of this is made even easier with our fully managed offering, Starburst Galaxy. Your teams can now focus on building and managing data pipelines and delivering differentiated features, not having to waste time on maintaining application infrastructure. Now, speaking of Starburst Galaxy, after many conversations with customers, and even facing our own internal blockers when building our own ingestion solution, we realized that those blockers were a bit more of a ubiquitous experience. These ingestion solutions can become expensive, disjointed, and hard to manage, and fail to provide the exactly once guarantees we soon realized that we needed here at Starburst. So this inspired our product team to rethink our own core building blocks and build a fully managed streaming solution into our Starburst Galaxy platform. This is a really exciting product release for us. It is the first of its kind, and you can now get fresh data in Starburst Galaxy and easily hydrate your data lake. You can bring data from Kafka-compliant topics into your data lake in near real time, all while ensuring exactly one semantics. You effortlessly connect to your Kafka topics and continuously write data into your data lake in Iceberg format at an impressive internet scale. Now, what really sets us apart in the integration is not that we're just providing streamlining capabilities, but that we're also incorporating built-in data governance and data observability features, as mentioned earlier in this session. As we all know, the power horse behind Starburst Galaxy is Trino and Warp Speed. So we've designed for internet scale data volumes. That's why we built Starburst Streaming Ingest, specifically tailored to handle large volumes of event data. You can think of clicks, page loads, UX interactions, ad impressions, sensor data, and more. This is a simple, scalable, and cost-effective way to manage the influx of diverse event data all within one platform. And as of today, Starburst Streaming Ingest is available for private preview in select regions on AWS. If you're interested in being a part of the program, you can apply via the link in the chat that Anna just shared. If you do not get around to this today, no need to worry. You will also receive this link as a follow-up. And bringing that all together, Starburst today powers innovative data apps across every industry, from real-time anti-money laundering softwares to total supply chain visibility apps, product health and telemetry analytics, all the way down to AI-driven threat detection platforms, which you'll be hearing more about right now, which is a perfect segue into our fireside chat with Jason Keel from Vectra. So Jason, I'd love to welcome you to the stage.
Thank you, Tom.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
I would love if you could just kick us off with talking a bit about Vectra's mission and what you all are building.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tyler, I appreciate everything that you just spoke about on the Starburst journey there. I think one of the things that we've appreciated, just as a little opener, is we adopted Galaxy about 1.5 years or so ago, and we really appreciate the velocity at which features and things that we need have been supported. So it's great to see this coming out. So yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Vectra. So Vectra is a security company in the threat detection and response space. We originally started out in the network threat detection and response, and we also do cloud now, and we also do third-party signal XDR type work as well. And for those of you who aren't familiar with threat detection and response space, you can think of it a little bit as a combination of traditional kind of like detecting threats via your firewall, your endpoint, but also post-breach. And one of the areas that we're really good at is post-breach. So when someone's compromised an account, I think they're on your networks, or they're using your resources in the cloud, or whatever happens to be, we're very good at identifying that, and also very importantly, correlating all the evidence and bringing all what we call the investigation information to the fingertips of analysts. And so that's what we do. Our drive and our goal for Vectra is to make the world a fairer and safer place, and we do that through basically our security offerings.
Awesome. Great background. So really paving the way for the future of cybersecurity. I'd love to just dive a little bit deeper. If you could talk about the specific products that you're focusing on and some of the goals and challenges that you wanted to address with your threat detection and response platform.
Sure. So I think at a high level, there's a philosophy that we have, which is, and this is not my terms, I'm borrowing this from other people, is we want to be very smart about how we use our quote unquote innovation tokens. And if our basic expertise is supposed to be in basically threat detection, we want to be very thoughtful about how we build our architectures so that we're not spending all of our time on infrastructure, but rather we can spend more of our time on the engineering side and the product side, focus on the differentiation in the security space. And so that's a big part of kind of like where we started with the conversation with Starburst, and very specifically Galaxy, because we wanted to just have the problem solved for us, and then kind of how we started our integration into our product offering. And Tyler, do you want me to chat a little bit more about that, or?
I was going to say you just kind of hit the nail on the head of the question I was going to dive into next. But yeah, if you want to continue, just why did you choose Starburst Galaxy, and were there specific aspects of the platform that really influenced your decision?
Sure. So we have a good way of thinking about this is we have many data sources. We have data sources that are coming from the network. We have data sources that are coming from the cloud. We have data sources that are coming from endpoints. And one of the things that we need to be able to do is look for threats across all of those, and then also correlate those, or attribute them to accounts, or attribute them to machines and things like that. And that's actually a very difficult problem across all these data sources. And so we needed a technology which will allow us to effectively both query and also, have us in our ETL organize our data in a way that can make that very accessible for detections, can make it available for research, and then in particular can make it available to the customer when they want to go ask their own questions. And so that kind of brings you to a solution such as Galaxy, which is we need something which can scale, which is very performant. Galaxy specifically, which we don't have to manage, and then also is very user friendly, where it's very easy for us to basically leverage their kind of quote unquote universal API with all our different data sources, whether it's our Delta Lake files or whether it's our MySQL databases, or whether it's our Mongo database, right? As we're kind of moving things around and organizing things, it allows us to have one interface for our customers and also our internal users to be able to do their investigations, their work, and their detection development.
Great. Just a quick follow-up question there, because I know that in the end of the day, this platform that Vectra is providing is very much centered around self-service access for those end users. Was there anything that Galaxy plugged into for allowing, growth in specific products? Say you had a specific level of data access that you were wanting to provide to users. How did we aid in that process?
Sure, Tyler. So if you imagine, so right now we're, I don't know, in Europe we're maybe like a terabyte of data a day, and that's growing actually fairly quickly, right? The problem of being able to basically pull the needle from the haystack, which I mean by that is the attacker is not going to leave a huge amount of noise around it, and be able to present that to the user is a hard problem. And then when the user wants to go search itself, right, and they're expecting or they're anxious because they believe there's a problem or they believe they've been hacked, or there's questions coming down about compliance, they're very demanding. It's like, okay, I need answers now, right? And so having a system where we can basically pre-populate the whole idea of, hey, if we detect this, here's usually the next 5 to 10 questions that a SOC analyst would ask. Pre-do those queries, on top of Galaxy, pull that data for them, so it's basically instantly available, and then also provide them an interface, which both can be free or guided, to allow them to continue to search across all their data sets for indicators of compromise or threat indicators. And Galaxy enables us to do that basically because of its interface and also because of its scale across multiple data sources.
Wonderful. So focused on enhancing customer experiences and probably delivering more than they expect, which is wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I think a big innovation that we have is we're not a SIM, although sometimes we seem like we are, but we're very good at focusing on what data matters, and not just all data. And we're also very good at transforming that data and relating it. So an account that shows up, say, in an EDR detection can be related to an account that's logged into a particular machine or host, or even it's actually really tricky, but even across AWS, and also Azure and things like that. And so it's part of how we do that.
Great. Well, speaking of data access and transformations, Jason, I would love to pass the mic just so you can educate the audience a bit
Sure.
deeper on how what this looks like architecturally at Vectra. So I'm going to change my screen over here and pass
Little, yeah, a little bit of an eye chart here, but I
Love it.
apologize for that. But I can kind of summarize this as the left represents all the data sources that we like to ingest. The center green box right there is currently all the ETL that we do, and like I talked about, relating activity across accounts and hosts and things like that, across cloud, across on-prem, all that. And the yellow box there, or the yellow circle there, is really the differentiation that we have that's powered by Galaxy. And if you look carefully at that, you'll see that we have instant investigations, we talked about before, is like when there's a detection or when an event occurs, we basically pre-populate usually what the next set of questions are for SOC analysts. Advanced investigations is where they can either take the guided investigation or to go freestyle. And then also, of course, we smile about, we call them a chaos dashboard, but it's really just reporting. But we smile because when you run these things, sometimes it opens your eyes to just how much is going on in your environment, whether it's cloud or network or whatever, and it feels a little bit chaotic. So we kind of affectionately named it that. But you can see that it really powers the whole search aspect of our product. We also have been looking just recently at Starbucks, some of their streaming technologies to help us out with the green box there. And then also, you might have seen the note. Also, there's a public preview for their Pi Starburst, which is basically their data frame support. And at the very bottom there, you'll see a blue box. That's kind of where our data science team lives and our security research team lives. And so that's going to become likely it's going to be something which we're also going to be using as a tool. We're kind of Polaris based today, and we use other technologies, but it looks like Galaxy is getting very close to where it could become take over even more of our estate. And so we're happy about that.
That's awesome. So what started as the yellow box looks like we're simplifying further to expand into green and blue.
Yeah.
So Galaxy's
You're-
farther reach than we could have imagined, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you're catching up to us. Is kind of how I smile a little bit because we had to go solve these problems because you didn't have them solved yet. But you're getting there, so it'll just be a matter of time here.
Wonderful. Well, happy testing. We're excited to keep plugging in on that story.
Yeah. I
Return.
also is I think part of the reason why this has worked out well for us is also because of the partnership angle. Like when we've needed something or been stuck, your teams have always been there to say, "Hey, here's how you can solve it," or give us a month and we'll have something which will help you solve it. And so we've definitely appreciated that.
Of course.
Yep.
That's why we're all here. Great. Well, appreciate that architectural review. And I'm just going to jump back to the just fireside chat slide to round this out before we jump to Alex for a roadmap preview. Since we partnered, Galaxy and Vectra, what downstream impacts have you noticed as a result of our partnership, even within your users and your user base? What has that experience been like?
So we were so this is all new product for our users. So it's not that the users really would be comparing to an older experience. So best value be described, I mentioned Sims earlier, but best be described as they now have a tool which brings the threat detection that we provide and we're able to pull in from other providers and things like that, and provides them a really fast and clean way to basically do the next steps of either validation, investigation, or like I said too, like compliance checks and things like that. And so that really, I think that feature there is highly differentiated from our competition right now. At least the speed which we can do it, and basically the direction that we're able to give as part of the offering. And so that's been something that's been very well received. We have a lot of customers that are on our older platform, which don't have this ability, and we're doing 20 or 30 customers a month right now converting from the old platform to the new platform.
Wow.
Very very specifically because of that ability, because having data available like that is pretty highly desired in the security field.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I know you gave us little, touches on what's up next, at least from the product testing space within Galaxy and Vectra. But what's up next for Vectra? What are you all working on? Anything exciting to share?
Yeah. So no, I appreciate that. So we have additional basic cloud detection and response technologies coming out. A pretty good offering for Azure. And they're also getting more into the XDR market, which I smile a little bit because it's much more of a marketing term and it's still being defined. But basically, a lot of our AI, we're able to prioritize signal, regardless of whether it's ours or somebody else's. And we're able to make people more efficient because of that. We're going, go look here, or this is urgent, or this is not urgent, things like that. And so we're bringing our technology to bear on basically prioritizing third-party signals as well. And then we also have identity already support, Azure AD and AD and things like that, detections. And so that also is part of, I think, what more and more people are starting to pick up and care about.
Great. Well, I have one more final question. Any tips, tricks, advice on anyone building a data application within the cyberspace? Would love to have your perspective on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you kind of covered it. I mean, like what we're doing, I think is relatively kind of like standard. I honestly, it's like the only thing which I say is like, the more you can simplify and make sure you translate that simplification to your customers, I think the happier they'll be. Is usually kind of my advice. It's like the things which they're going to do often, make sure that you think about that and automate it and help them get those done quickly and easily. And then the things they do rarely, you could take some more exceptions to, but be clear about the difference in the experience to expect. And so things that are important, and they do often, make sure they're fast, snappy, and as much as possible done for them. And then the things which they do less often, just make sure they know that'll be a different experience, but it's still going to work well. So
Beautifully said. Well, Jason, I really, really appreciate your time. I know everyone else in the room does too. So thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to partnering with you in the future.
yeah, thanks, Tyler.
Of course. Moving right on along. I'd like to welcome Alex Bashir to the stage. Thank you, Alex, for joining us. Alex is going to give us some insight into our roadmap related to powering data apps. And so I'm going to pass the mic to him.
Awesome. Just confirming you can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. So I'm going to review a subsection, if you will, of the roadmap and kind of focus on what's relevant for building data applications. So this will be in the area of the core engine itself. So talking about performance, scalability, resilience. And then we'll talk about gravity. So all of the metadata and data governance that surrounds all of the data within the platform. And then finally, the data engineering part. So how do you actually manage getting data and within the platform, and also keeping it in a state that is stable, and continue things like data engineering. So that's kind of the preview. So you could probably just go through all the animations on this. So one of the areas we're continuing to work on is cross-cloud and cross-region access of data. So naturally, Trino is a federated data engine that allows you to federate or to query data across multiple different sources, including on-prem in some cases, not to mention traditional databases plus object stores. And for the most part, many organizations have data spread out across multiple areas. So we are continuing to build upon this. We have cross-region support now. For instance, if you have data sitting in multiple S3 regions, you can query across, but we're also building out the ability to cross-cloud. Naturally, there is egress costs associated with this, but usually that is worth not having to move and manage the data from one cloud to another. This is kind of one area to look out on the engine side for cross-cloud access. In addition to that, there's a functionality around a particular type of catalog called Stargate that allows you to connect multiple Trino clusters. This was traditionally used in the Starburst enterprise world to connect multiple different clusters in that area, but we're expanding it to allow you to access data from Starburst Galaxy into the enterprise platform. This gives two different types of main benefits. One is if you already have an existing Starburst Enterprise instance set up and running, regardless if it's on-prem or in the cloud, that you can actually work with data that's in that. So you can query it. You also get all the benefits of Gravity that was talked about earlier, and I'll go a bit deeper into the roadmap there. And then also any connectors that are within SEP itself. So you're able to connect even more if there's not for instance, a native connector within Galaxy. So this is kind of one of the first steps into kind of unifying the on-prem, self-managed, and the full-blown software as a service platforms that we have. So in addition to that is around private link, and there's multiple facets of this. I decided to go with a relatively simple slide, but the intent is to have end-to-end connectivity for private link on all the clouds that it's supported on. So in the case of Amazon and Azure, be able to, one, make sure you're able to meet your InfoSec requirements, but also be able to connect to on-premises data sources, so you're able to have that fully unified set we were talking about earlier with that Stargate connector. So we're continuing to build this out incrementally. If you have interest in this, feel free to reach out and we can talk in more detail. In addition to the kind of the connectivity portions of it, we are building out and continuing to invest in both performance and resilience. So warp speed was mentioned earlier. So some of the things that we're working on from a performance perspective are things like doing adaptive partitioning. We're also looking at subquery analysis. I think it's on one of the next slides. But the short of it is we're continuing to invest in this area. So currently it's an AWS supported feature. We're building out Azure and GCP support. We're also working on the resilience of the cache and index of themselves, and also supporting more types like geospatial and text data. So in addition to that, the performance piece of it, there's also the resilience. We call it fault tolerant execution mode. So we are working on a few different features around adaptive partitioning that I mentioned earlier, increasing our ability to do auto scaling at the worker level and not just at the cluster level. And then also looking at can we incorporate the work within the warp speed in addition to the fault tolerant execution to gain even more performance around when you're doing long-running ETL jobs. So ETL jobs are a critical part of data applications when you're, in the case we were talking about earlier, looking for threats. You're sifting through large amounts of data. We want to make that as performant as possible. So there's also like a kind of in summary, and I'll go in one more detail in a second on the caching component. But we're working on things at the cluster level, and we're also working on things at the cache level. So I'll kind of talk about the caching component in the next slide. So we currently have, I believe this is in private preview, but you have the ability to now have the option to have result set caching. So if the total result of a particular query is like repeatedly used, you're not having to actually fully execute that entire query. It's configurable how stale you're okay with that being. And it's the output of the select queries. It's currently limited to a megabyte, but we're going to grow that over time to allow users to be able to have larger amounts of data. But the intent here is to have things like dashboards, et cetera, that don't have massive amounts of data that are continuously reused and very, very common in like business intelligence use cases. Then on the next slide, kind of taking this a step further, instead of doing just full query results, I'm actually doing subquery. This is, again, very common in business intelligence use cases, or if you have a data application where you're slicing and dicing multiple pieces, some of those subqueries may be repetitive. So we're trying to reduce this instance. This is one of the roadmap items we're working on as kind of subquery caching as well. So moving on into the gravity component. So this is all around finding data, governing it, making sure that the security policies are set up correctly, and all that good stuff. So there's a few different areas that we consider. So the kind of these six. There's data cataloging. How do you actually view what data is in your Galaxy environment? This has been out for quite some time. Similarly, universal search, so you can search across all of the metadata that we have. Data governance, we've continued to build upon with things like ABAC. We'll talk a little bit about automatic data classification shortly, but some of the functionality that we've added in that particular department. There's also data products, which allow you to create curated data to share internally. There's also data observability. We recently released table level lineage, and column level lineage is coming very shortly. And you also have the ability to write data quality rules using SQL. To get learning around that. So that's some of the stuff that's on the short-term horizon. There's also in private preview the ability to share data products externally, so not just within a particular Galaxy account, but externally. This is very useful for like data sharing use cases, data brokering, that kind of thing. That's the intent of Gravity, and then we can kind of go into the details of each of those really quickly. So the data cataloging side, most of this has been around trying to just improve the search results, and then of course any of the connectors and catalogs, adding those there. This has been in the product for quite some time, so most of this is just getting the support for more data sources. On the access control, we just very recently released an AI-driven automatic data classification that allows you to scan data on a scheduled basis. And it uses an AI model to determine if it is PII data. This is a kind of a V1. We will be expanding this from a roadmap perspective to include customer-driven classification. So if you have your own specific types of data you're looking for, you can classify that. And that will be particularly useful if you want to start tagging things that aren't just necessarily for security purposes. We also have where you can customize what tags are being applied. But this is in public preview now. You can actually test this out. There's also user-based attributes that is in private preview that allows you to define attributes for your users in your IDP, and then drive things like row filters based on those results. And then it's kind of some of the stuff we're looking into the future for are external and third-party integrations to allow syncing of Ranger and Muta policies to allow kind of more of a centralized way of defining those. On the data observability side, I mentioned that we have lineage, which helps you trace the origin of the data, and then you also have the ability to view the health of that. So you can kind of see in this eye chart that there's some metrics that are defined for each of the columns, and you can see the column profile, but you can also create custom SQL-based rules that you can then get alerted on if they're outside of a window. For instance, if you expect a table to have so many columns, so many rows within a particular query, and it falls outside of that bounds, you'll actually get an alert for that. So there's some focus on helping folks actually control the quality of their data. The lineage components will allow you to make sure that downstream effects or even upstream effects and kind of troubleshooting where schema changes are causing problems and just helping visibility into where data is coming from. And then I think this is the last slide under gravity, which is around data products. The biggest things that we're focusing here on are around looking at change history. So how are your data products changing over time? And then allowing more granular data set visibility and previews and things like that. So this is more of just making data products even better than how they are today. Oh, I guess I had one more. Apologies. This is the data sharing that I mentioned earlier. This is again in private preview. If you do have interest in this, feel free to reach out. We have basically the crux of this is you establish a trust relationship between two different Galaxy accounts. And that's an explicit thing on both sides. And then you do the same for sharing a data product. And then the owner of that data product can then revoke it if they want to. There's time-based policies around this, things like that. This is definitely something we wanting customer feedback on. So please, if you again have interest here, let us know. One big point here is this data is not copied. It is that really helps folks from a data transfer perspective and helping keep costs down of having duplicate data sets. Okay, on the data engineering side, it's probably be a relatively brief section, but kind of want to talk about some items here. The first one is, and I think I probably just skip this slide. This was mentioned earlier around the streaming ingest, but I'll just kind of call out the plans here. It's currently a private preview. We're hoping to open this up in a complete public preview within all of the clouds in early Q1. So you'll be seeing this soon. There are much bigger, longer future plans around bulk ingest as well, but the initial focus is on the streaming ingest from Kafka topics. In addition to that, and this is more conceptual than anything, but we're continuing to invest into how do you manage all of the data as things grow over time. So we are obviously heavily focused on Iceberg and from a table format perspective. And what we're trying to make sure we do is help with all of that stuff that you're seeing at the bottom around file compaction, table optimization, data pruning, materialized view creation, all of the things like that that are critical to managing your data lake. This ultimately translates into automation of doing those. So there's not a lot of detail on the slide, but the intent would be is within Galaxy, you actually go in and set up and say, hey, I want to automatically compact this table, do some data pruning, et cetera. So there's a lot of investments in automating those particular activities for folks that are managing these warehouses. This is a bit more details, but kind of the phase one is focusing on kind of the volume of queries, table optimizations where we can, generated columns, read versus write, and then ultimately moving into higher impact. So more of some discovery that needs to happen there. So if you're running into issues, we'd be happy to dive into what that ultimately looks like. And then finally, all of this is centered around scheduled queries. So this will actually be renamed to jobs soon. So there's a series of activities that are scheduled within Galaxy. So you can currently schedule SQL queries, but we're going to expand it where those data maintenance activities, for instance, can be scheduled. And then we're also, as part of this, adding things like job dependency. So being able to have like serial based activities where you do one activity and then do another. So there's some basic orchestration that you can do that has some a bit more complexity than just a single scheduled run. And I believe if that is the last of my slide. So I appreciate the time. I'll hand it back over to Tyler.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, Alex. A lot of incredibly exciting work happening on the product side. So I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through all that. Well, that just about concludes all of our content for today. I want to extend a great thank you to Jason and Alex again for joining, and a huge thank you to everyone in the room who joined us today for today's session. You will be getting a on-demand live link to your inboxes in 72 hours with a couple awesome resources, one of which is including a tutorial on how to build a data application with Galaxy and Starburst. That is one of our first tutorial functionalities that we'll be launching for you all. So please check that out. And as always, if you have any questions, reach out to our team, reach out to me, and check out that data applications hub that we sent earlier. Thank you again, and hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week.